In the last video, I told you my story, the psoriatic arthritis, the melanoma, the years of being sick, the hundreds of things I tried, the ceremonies that took over my life. If you watched that, you know where I was. It took me a long time to figure out why nothing worked for me. Because that's the thing that frustrated me more than anything else. It wasn't just feeling bad. It was putting in real effort, spending real money, real time, real energy that I didn't have and getting almost nothing back for it. That's a different kind of pain. When you're trying hard, you expect something to shift. Even a little bit. Some small sign that says, okay, this is doing something. But I'd be 3 months into a protocol and everything was exactly the same. And I would feel exactly the same. And I remember looking at the counter one morning. It was lined with bottles and notebooks and schedules. And I was thinking, this should be working. On paper, this makes sense. Why don't I feel any different? So I'd do what anyone else does. I'd assume I picked the wrong thing and I'd try something else. That's how I ended up with the list I told you about. The Buhner protocols, the AIP diets for years, ozone, coffee enemas, cupping, the adaptogens and glandulars and the parasite cleanses, the turpentine and sugar, all of it. Over 200 things I can remember and probably more I've forgotten. Each one I went into thinking maybe this is the one. And each time I'd get a little or nothing at all and end up right back where I started. Now, some of them did help me a little. The thyroid glandulars made a difference early on before I got on medications. Antibiotics gave me maybe 5 or 10%, but I stayed on them for 12 months, which was probably too long. Adaptogens, the ginseng, the rhodiola, the luthro, those gave me about 2 months of noticeable improvement, and I was so grateful. And then one day the effects just stopped, like someone flipped the switch off. And of course, then I did LDN, and maybe that was 10% benefit at my worst. I did liposomal essential oils, and actually they helped with my neuropathic pain, which was huge. But nothing, not a single thing on that entire list fundamentally changed my trajectory. I was still sick, still exhausted, foggy, and managing all these ceremonies, watching my life happen through a window I couldn't open. And here's what really got to me. I'd see someone in a forum or in a group saying this protocol changed their life, and I'd be on the same protocol, doing it the same way, and getting nothing. So either they were lying or something was different about my situation. That messed with my head. Because if it was the same things that worked for other people and they aren't working for me, what does that mean? Am I just too far gone? Is my case too severe? Am I doing something wrong that I can't see? I spent a lot of time in that headspace. And I think a lot of people with Lyme end up there. That quiet place where you've stopped expecting things to work at all, but you keep trying because the alternative is just giving up entirely. But this took me way too long to understand. The stuff I was trying wasn't necessarily bad. Some of it was actually probably good. Some of it probably could have helped under different circumstances. The problem wasn't that I hadn't found the right thing. The problem was my body couldn't do anything with the stuff I was giving it. Now let me explain what I mean, because this is the part that changed things for me. When you have Lyme and co-infections, I had Lyme and Bartonella, your body's in a constant state of inflammation. And wherever there's chronic inflammation, there's something called hypoxia. Hypoxia is just a fancy word for oxygen starvation. The cells in those inflamed areas aren't getting enough oxygen. Now here's why that matters. Your mitochondria are these little engines inside your cells that produce energy, and they run on oxygen. That's their fuel. When they don't have enough oxygen, they cannot produce energy efficiently. And when they can't produce energy efficiently, everything downstream falls apart. And I mean everything. Your immune system needs energy to fight the infections. Without it, Lyme and co-infections just keep circulating, they keep reproducing, they keep doing damage. And your body can't mount a real response. There is a reason Lyme causes hypoxia. It is a very intelligent creature. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Your body, though, also needs energy to detox. All those toxins, all the die-off from whatever treatments you're doing, all the metabolic waste that's been building up, your liver, your kidneys, your lymphatic system, they all need energy to process that stuff out. Without it, you're basically living in a toxic waste dump that keeps getting more toxic. And that's an environment where Lyme thrives and you suffer. Now, your cells also need energy. They need it to repair the damaged tissue. And without it, the inflammation just keeps on cycling. Tissue breaks down, it doesn't get repaired, it breaks down more, the damage accumulates. Damaged tissue are easier for Lyme to invade and hide from our immune system. It's no wonder. And then there's your microcirculation, these tiny blood vessels that deliver oxygen and nutrients to your cells in the first place. Those are impaired too. So not only are your mitochondria starving for oxygen, the delivery system that's supposed to bring it to them isn't working either. It's one of the first places Lyme and co-infections love to attack. Cut off the oxygen supply and everything downstream suffers and is weaker. So now you've got the situation where oxygen and nutrients aren't even reaching your cells properly, and the mitochondria are supposed to turn that oxygen into energy, and they're running on fumes. The whole system is barely keeping the lights on. There's nothing left over for healing, nothing left over for fighting back, nothing left over for detoxing. Every bit of energy your body produces is going to just staying alive. And when you're sick with Lyme disease, you can feel it. That's your crushing fatigue. It's your body telling you to conserve energy because it's in an energy deficit. And into that system, I was pouring supplements and herbs and protocols and treatments. It was like trying to run a factory that doesn't have electricity. You can bring the best raw materials in the world. You can hire the best workers. You can set up the most efficient assembly line that's ever been designed. But if there's no power, nothing gets built. The raw material just sits there. That was my body. The power was off, and I kept bringing in more raw materials and wondering why nothing was getting built. And it actually gets worse than that, because all of those things I was taking, my body had to process them. It had to metabolize the supplements. It had to deal with die-off from herbs. It had to manage the detox reactions from the treatments. And every one of those processes requires energy. It was energy my body didn't have. So in some cases, the effort I was putting in to get better was actually making things harder. I was adding more load to a system that was already maxed out. More things to process, more reactions to manage, more demand on a body that couldn't even handle basic function. That's why I'd crash after I started something new. That's why I'd get a little bit of bump and then I'd just slide sidewards. My body really couldn't rally, maybe for a day or two, and then it would completely run out of gas, because it was trying to do too much with too little. Now, when I finally understood that, a lot of things clicked into place. Why the Buhner protocol didn't stick. Why the adaptogens wore off after just a couple months. Why something would work for someone else and not for me. Maybe their system had enough baseline capacity to respond, but mine didn't. It wasn't random, it was capacity. My body simply did not have the capacity to heal. And nobody framed it for me that way. Not a doctor, not a practitioner, not a forum post. They all just kept pointing me towards more things to try, more inputs, more protocols, more stuff to add to the pile. Nobody stopped and asked a more fundamental question. Can your body actually use any of this right now? I remember thinking about all the people in the Lyme community I talked to over the years, all the people doing all these elaborate multi-hour protocols, all the people cycling through treatments, spending thousands and tens of thousands of dollars, burning themselves out trying to get better, the people doing hyperbaric oxygen for 90 minutes a session at a doctor's office. They'd feel great and they wanted to go back, but they never did because they couldn't handle the 2 and 3 hour ordeals multiple times a week. I realized most of them were probably stuck in the same trap I was, trying to solve the wrong problem. They weren't failing because they picked the wrong herb or the wrong supplement or the wrong doctor. They were failing because their body didn't have the power turned on. And here's the part that still gets me. All this time, all this money, all the years of ceremonies and protocols and research and hope and disappointment, the answer wasn't more complex. It was simpler than anything I'd tried, and it was more fundamental. Okay, quick side note. If any of this is resonating with you and you just want something simple that lays out the whole approach, I put together a free guide called A Simpler Path to Lyme Recovery. It covers everything I wish someone had handed to me years ago. Links below if you want it. Now, once I realized the real problem, the question became simple. How do I turn the power back on? How do I give my cells the oxygen they're starving for so my mitochondria can actually produce energy again? So my body can start doing what it's supposed to do. That's what led me to what I eventually found. And I'll be honest with you, when I first came across it, I didn't believe it. I mean, after 500 things didn't work, I had zero faith that number 501 was going to be any different. I was so beaten down by that point, my default reaction to anything was like, Yeah, we'll see. I lost the ability to get excited about a potential solution. But this one was different, not because it promised more, because it asked a different question. Instead of asking what kills Lyme, it addressed how do I get my body functioning again? And once I started, even though I didn't believe in it, the results showed up anyway. Slowly at first, then in ways I couldn't ignore. And in the next video, I'm going to tell you exactly what it was and why it worked when nothing else did. Because once you understand this, you can see why so many people are stuck and what actually has to change things to start moving forward. Catch you in the next video.